بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. To proceed. This is session 2 and we are doing fiqh. We're doing the chapter on Adhan and Iqamah. We started the book of Salah last time and we talked about abandonment of Salah, and we talked about, whoever abandons Salah out of defiance, out of rejection versus out of laziness or indifference. And we said the difference between the two and the disagreement over the one who abandons the Salah out of laziness and so on. I wanted to mention one thing about the Salah, because one of the Mashayikh one time said, and it made really good sense, and it was powerful. One of the Mashayikh said, Iblis was asked to prostrate before Adam once, and he refused, and he got removed from paradise. You are being asked to prostrate 34 times, and you say no to 34 prostrations every day to Allah, and you think you'll make it to paradise. So, you are consistently, refusing to prostrate to Allah. Iblis refused to prostrate to Adam once, and because it was an act of defiance to Allah, he got removed from paradise. And you are refusing 34 prostrations every day consistently and wishing to get to paradise. I think that this should be enough deterrent. Then today, inshallah, we'll talk about Bab al-Adhan wal-Iqamah. And al-Shaykh, rahimahullah, Imam ibn Qudamah, rahimahullah, in the beginning of this chapter said about al-Adhan and al-Iqamah, وَهُمَا مَشْرُوعَانِ لِلصَّلَوَاتِ الْخَمْسِ دُونَ غَيْرِهَا لِلرِّجَالِ دُونَ النِّسَاءِ. The Adhan and Iqamah are prescribed for the 5 daily prayers only, and for men only, not women. وَهُمَا مَشْرُوعَانِ لِلصَّلَوَاتِ الْخَمْسِ. Adhan and Iqamah are prescribed for الصلوات الخمس. Adhan and Iqamah are prescribed for الصلوات الخمس, not for anything else. Certainly Jum'ah is included in the Salawat al-Khams, but there is no Adhan and Iqamah for Janazah, there is no Adhan and Iqamah for Eid, there is no Adhan and Iqamah for Kusuf, there is no Adhan and Iqamah for any other Salah, whether it is congregational for Taraweeh, whether it's congregational prayer or non-congregational prayer, just the Salawat al-Khams. Because these are the obligatory ones that people get called to come to, and they need to come to. The beauty of al-Adhan, al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, and I mentioned this in the footnotes from Sheikh Said Sabiq in Fiqh al-Sunnah. He quoted al-Qurtubi talking about the beauty of Adhan, and that Adhan includes actually all of the articles and principles of faith. It's all. So Allahu Akbar, it's about the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the perfection, the existence and perfection. Allahu Akbar, Allah exists and Allah is greater than all things. So it's about the existence and perfection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we start by Allahu Akbar, because if you start by Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, it would not be appropriate. Even Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah is the testimony of faith, it's the kalima, but it would not be appropriate because Allahu Akbar is a grabber of attention. Allahu Akbar brings your attention to the Adhan, and then you start to contemplate over the meanings. Allahu Akbar brings you to being aware of Allah's existence and Allah's greatness, and then Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, the kalima, and Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. So basically the goal is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The guide to this goal, the guide to this destination is the Prophet ﷺ. So it shows you the way, and it tells you about the guide to this way and the one that you should follow to reach your final destination. And then Hayya ala Salah, it is basically an invitation to this particular act, which is the prayer, this particular prayer. And then Hayya ala al-Falah, which is hurry to prosperity. And then Hayya ala al-Falah, which is hurry to prosperity, is basically inviting you. So, Hayya al-Falah is after Hayya al-Salah, it tells you that here is prosperity. If you want success, you're busy in your business, you're busy in your shop, but true prosperity is here. And coming to the prayer will not destroy your business. It will bring you prosperity in this life and in the hereafter. So come. Hayya al-Falah has an emphasis that come to the prayer or perform the prayer. So Hayya al-Salah, Hayya al-Falah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. This is going back to basically the centrality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our lives, our creator in our lives, and La ilaha illallah to confirm one's faith, to go back 360 degrees and to confirm one's faith. So it has all the principles of faith embodied in it. And it has a beautiful story. The Adhan has a beautiful story. The Prophet ﷺ wanted to invite the people to the prayer, to the congregational prayer, and then the Prophet asked different people. Some people suggested kindling fire, some people suggested the bell of the Nasara or the Christians, a bell like their bell, and to ring a bell. And the Prophet ﷺ eventually decided to ring a bell because it made sense, in terms of i'lam, in terms of reaching people far away. The sound of the bell will make sense. And he disliked it because it used to be the way the Nasara or the Christians called to their prayers. So we will not have any distinction. Now, the Prophet ﷺ consulted the Sahaba, and then after he agreed on ringing the bell, Abdullah ibn Zayd saw a dream. Abdullah ibn Zayd ibn Abd Rabbih saw a dream. And in the dream, he saw a man that has two green garments. And green has been mentioned several times, green is not the color of Islam, but if we have to choose a color, green is not a bad color to choose. Islam does not have colors, all of this symbolism. Islam came to liberate the people from symbolism, and ritualism, and to connect you directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Islam, the crescent is not really Islam's symbol. But if we must provide something, then it may not be a bad idea. It was not a bad idea for the Turkish to basically pick the crescent. That's where it came from, crescent for the red crescent, because they wanted to have like something like the Red Cross, but they wanted it to be Islamic, so red crescent versus the Red Cross. But the crescent is not our symbol, green is not our color, but if we had to choose a color, green is not a bad color. And there is the mention of green in different hadith and in different parts of the Sunnah, and the Prophet ﷺ had this green cloak and so on. So, if you ask us to pick a color for Islam, green, it's fine. Someone may have said, and someone may argue white. The Prophet loved white and praised white. But then white against what background? You also need to be tactful logistically. White will not be particularly tactful because it's usually a white background. So you want to pick a color that would be good against that background, against the white background. Contrast. Green is a good color. So Abdullah ibn Zayd. But I just wanted to make you understand that Islam is not about these things, so don't be too rigid about them. That's fine. So if you want to light up or not, if we want to color, to color the Empire State Building a certain color for on our Eid day, and you choose green, then that's fine. Okay, so Abdullah ibn Zayd saw a man in two green garments. holding a bill like that of the Christians, and Abdullah ibn Zayd said to him, "Can I buy this from you?" In his dream, "Can I buy this from you?" And he said to him, "No, why? What do you need it for?" And he said, "Well, I need it to buy it to call to the prayers." And then he said to him, "Should I teach you something that's better than this, to call to your prayers?" And he said, "Yes." And he taught him al-Adhan. He came the next day to the Prophet ﷺ, in the morning to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said to him, "This is what I saw in my dream." And the Prophet ﷺ said to him, "Innaha la ru'ya haqq." This is a dream, basically a ru'ya. You know the difference between ru'ya and hulm. So this is a ru'ya haqq. This is a truthful ru'ya, or a truthful vision. And we know that ru'ya juz'un min 46 أو 46 جزءا من النبوة. Ru'ya is one part of 46 parts of Nubuwwah, or prophethood. That's reported by al-Bukhari. There are, in some other hadith, 70 parts. We said before that the way Arabs use numbers, it is not like we use numbers. It's not 70 versus 71. It's not the actual number. 70 reflects, a lot. It means a lot. It does not necessarily mean 70 like 70. Like we mean by 70, which is 70 is 69 plus 1. That is not how they spoke. So, since this was a ru'ya haqq, the Prophet ﷺ agreed to it. Now, if you say that our adhan did not come by revelation, no, it came by revelation. Because the part of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is taqreer. Sunnah qawliya, fa'liya, taqreeriya. 3 different types of sunnah. Sunnah al-qawliya is basically the verbal sunnah, where the oral traditions of the Prophet ﷺ, sunnah al-fa'liya, the actions of the Prophet ﷺ, and sunnah al-taqreeriya, the tacit approvals of the Prophet ﷺ. Abdullah ibn Zayd came, and it did not become part of our deen until the Prophet approved of it, right? Tacit approval, sunnah taqreeriya. So it is part of our deen after the Prophet ﷺ approved of it. Then the Prophet ﷺ said to Abdullah ibn Zayd, "Go and alqihi ala Bilal فإنه أندى صوتا منك." Go and recite it to Bilal because he has a better voice than you, or he has a more beautiful voice, melodious voice than you. So, and go teach it to Bilal so that he becomes the muazzin. And then Bilal, so when Bilal called the azan, Umar ibn Khattab came out of his home running and dragging his cloak, so he was like not completely dressed. And then he came, and then he said to the Prophet ﷺ, "I saw the same thing in a dream. That I heard, I was basically told of the same adhan in a dream as well." And Umar is muhaddith. Umar is someone that is inspired, and كان في أمتي محدثون فعمر بن الخطاب منهم. The Prophet ﷺ said, if there will be muhaddathun in my ummah, people inspired, divinely inspired, not receiving direct revelation like the prophets and messengers, but divinely inspired by the divine. If there will be divinely inspired people among my ummah, Umar ibn Khattab is one of them. So Umar ibn Khattab came and he said, he saw the same thing in the dream, and the Prophet ﷺ said, فَلِلَّهِ الْحَمْدِ. Then to Allah belongs all praise. Then we have, we were given an answer to our plea, because the Prophet ﷺ was really wanting something other than the bill to use for adhan. So someone may say, so why did not, if the Prophet ﷺ was receiving revelation and why did we have to go through all of this? It could be to izhar fadilat al-sahabi hadha. It could be to show the virtue of the sahabi, to show the honor of the sahabi. and to show, the consultation with the community also, to honor the Sahaba as a community, that the Prophet is consulting with them on this matter. The fact that the Sahabi saw it before the Prophet and he told the Prophet ﷺ, involve the community and engage the community and so on. And these are all good virtues. These are all good purposes. These are all good purposes. And we have to understand that the Prophet ﷺ is not divine. The Prophet ﷺ is the greatest of mankind. The Prophet ﷺ is greater and more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the throne and Jibreel and anything else. But the Prophet is not Allah, and Allah is the divine. And the Prophet ﷺ was dependent on receiving revelation. Sometimes he would wait for the revelation. It's not like he commands the revelation to come and it comes. He waits for the revelation. And if the revelation does not come in one form, it comes in a different form, then that is fine. So sometimes the revelation will come to him as ilham, inspiration. Sometimes Jibreel comes in person. Sometimes he was invited to the heavens to receive revelation about the prayers. Sometimes it comes through a Sahabi, and then by tacit approval it becomes part of the deen. And it is different ways of revelation. But the Prophet was not constantly was not constantly acting through the divine, because otherwise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not tell him عَبَسَ وَتَوَلَّى أَنْ جَاءَهُ الْأَعْمَى if he was constantly working through divine irada, then there would not be room for him to tell him عَبَسَ وَتَوَلَّى أَنْ جَاءَهُ الْأَعْمَى, or to tell him عَفَى اللَّهُ عَنْكَ لِمَا أَذِنْتَ لَهُمْ, or to basically correct any of his ijtihad. And according to the majority of the fuqaha and the usuliyin, the Prophet ﷺ can make ijtihad that needs to be corrected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah corrected his ijtihad a few times that are known and popular. So that's the story of the adhan. And then the Shaykh said the adhan and iqamah are prescribed for the 5 daily prayers only. And he said prescribed, mashru'ani. He could have added, the ruling of the adhan and the iqamah here, but he did not add. He said mashru'an, prescribed, and prescribed is not enough, because the adhan and iqamah for the 5 daily prayers are what? Fard kifaya. According to all the mazahib, they are fard kifaya. They are a collective obligation, an obligation on the community. Someone must do it, and it's an obligation on 3 people. 3 people. They, if they are alone in an encampment somewhere, they need to make adhan and iqamah. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ma min thalathatin fi qaryatin wala bad, wa la yu'adhan fihim." In Musnad Imam Ahmad, this addition is present. "La yu'adhan fihim, wa la tuqamu fihim as-salah, illa istahwada alayhim ash-shaytan." There will not be 3 people in a village or badwa, basically nomads. لا يؤذن فيهم ولا تقام فيهم الصلاة, where adhan will not be raised and salah will not be established among them, except that the shaitan will استحوذ عليهم الشيطان, the shaitan will take control of them, overtake them, take control of them. استحوذ عليهم الشيطان. So the adhan and iqamah are fard kifaya. They're fard kifaya for men only. Where they can be sunnah and not fard kifaya, if you're alone, they could be sunnah. يعجب ربك من راعي الغنم على رأس الشظية في الجبل أو على رأس شظية الجبل يؤذن ثم يقيم للصلاة يقول الله لملائكته هذا عبدي يخاف مني اشهدوا أني غفرت له. Your Lord جزاك الله خير. Okay, يعجب ربك, your Lord marvels at. You will translate this sometime, you see this translated sometimes as pleased with. يعجب means marvels at. It's a very, we will not talk about this. Because when you translate the sifat, it is extremely just burdensome task. At the end of the day, one of the meanings of this is your Lord is pleased with the shepherd who is on top of a mountain's crag. The crag is like a sort of a separate rock, a big rock on the mountain. He is standing on the crag that's on the mountain, making adhan. So making basically all the creatures around him hear him, and then he makes iqamah and he prays. And he's by himself. So that indicates that adhan and iqamah are beloved to Allah, whether or not there is congregation or there is not congregation. So adhan masnoon is masnoon for someone who's alone, for people who are traveling, masnoon. The adhan is masnoon for someone who's doing maqdiyat, fawaid, you know, the made up, the prayers that are maqdiyat, made up. Missed prayers, okay. I'm trying to find the word for maqdiya, the prayer to be made up. Anyway. So al-fawaid, the missed prayers, or maqdiyat, the prayers to be made up, when you make up for the prayer, is then adhan is not really obligatory here, even if it is the entire community, but it is prescribed. But it is prescribed that you make the adhan. When the Prophet ﷺ missed the 4 salawat in Ghazwat al-Khandaq, when he was too busy in Ghazwat al-Khandaq and he missed the 4 salawat, he made one adhan and made iqamah for each salah. And when the Prophet ﷺ woke up late, one day when they were traveling and Bilal overslept and they woke up late, he still commanded Bilal to make the adhan even though the time was out already. When you go back to the hadith of Abdullah ibn Zayd, and the Prophet ﷺ saying to Abdullah ibn Zayd, go teach it to Bilal because he has a better voice than you. It shows like there is like something to learn here, that the benefit of the community and the collective benefit of the community should outweigh the individual benefit and should come first before individual benefit. Because someone may say that this may break the heart of Abdullah ibn Zayd. He's the one who saw it. He's the one who, it's all Abdullah ibn Zayd's. So why teach it to Bilal so that Bilal becomes the muazzin and everybody remembers Bilal and does not remember, very few people would remember Abdullah ibn Zayd. But Bilal had a better voice, a more melodious voice. And this would be for the benefit of the community. So we should be modest and humble and shy and courteous, but that should not prevent us from doing the right thing at the end of the day. I mean, if you want, designating the job or tasking the person who's most fitted for the job to do it, not just anyone, out of, shyness or courtesy or whatever. But there is another thing to learn also from this, from the Prophet ﷺ, which is that he said, "Anda sawtan," not a'la sawtan. He said he has a more melodious voice, which tells you that the beauty is really like a concept that Islam values so much. It's not just functionality. It's not just about the basically your voice being higher. It's not just about efficiency. It is about the melodious voice. It's about the beauty of the voice, because that has a room in Islam. So Islam values beauty in addition to functionality, above functionality. So then Adhan and Iqamah are fard kifaya, except sometimes they are sunnah. And one of the times that they are sunnah also is to make adhan in the ear of the newborn. To make adhan in the ear of the newborn, this was reported from the Prophet ﷺ that he made adhan in the ear of al-Hasan. And Tirmidhi authenticated this report. Tirmidhi reported it and Tirmidhi authenticated it. It's controversial, but we will take the authentication of Tirmidhi. And if Imam Ahmad used to accept the weaker hadith in virtuous deeds, then a hadith that has been authenticated by Tirmidhi should be good enough for us. So the Tirmidhi said that this hadith is Hasan, Sahih, that the Prophet ﷺ made adhan in the right ear, no, this is the right ear, the right ear of al-Hasan when he was born. Now, the hadith of making adhan in the right ear and iqamah in the left ear is weak, certainly weak. If you do it, in the madhab, it is prescribed still, because and Imam Ahmad used to consider weak hadith legitimate sources, basically to act upon them, not necessarily to consider the deed a mustahab deed, because to consider it mustahab, you're saying that it is mustahab by Allah. But there is a difference between just doing it, hoping for the reward, in case there is a reward for it, because it's a weak hadith. I am not certain that the Prophet ﷺ said this. The scholars of hadith told me this hadith is not established from the Prophet ﷺ. So a compromise here is to say, and this compromise was particularly stated by Ibn Taymiyyah, to say that Imam Ahmad did not consider these hadith valid for legislation in the sense that we are saying Allah loves this, because to make that claim is a huge claim. You really need to have a proof. You need to have sound proof to make that claim. But Imam Ahmad said, al-amal alayhi. You act upon it. You do it, hoping for the reward. In case there is a reward attached to this, then I will not miss the reward. And that is what Imam Ahmad intended, according to what Imam Taymiyyah rahimahullah said. So in this case, you make adhan in the right ear, and if you take Tirmidhi's authentication, and he is certainly deserving of being followed, then you consider this to be a sunnah. And then if you want to make a iqamah in the left ear, that's also prescribed in the madhab, although the hadith is not weak, but then in this case you're doing it hoping to get some reward. You're not necessarily claiming that it is an established sunnah. He said, لِلرِّجَالِ دُونَ النِّسَاءِ. He said for men only. And all the mazahib will agree that it is not prescribed for women in the sense of not prescribed meaning what? It's not prescribed for women to make adhan. Certainly all the mazahib agree that women should not. I'm not saying must not, because I'm saying all the mazahib agree. So all the madhab agree that women should not make the adhan in the presence of men or for men. But three of them will say that if she does, it will be considered invalid. This is an adhan that a woman is making for men. Maliki, Shafi'is, and Hanbalis will say it is invalid. The Hanafis will say it is makruh for her, so don't go out and say the Hanafis are okay with women making adhan. So the Hanafis said it is makruh for her to make adhan, but makruh, I'm going to write it, but valid. So in case she made it, they do not repeat it. Although Imam Abu Hanifa said yustahabbu i'adatu, it is preferred to repeat it, but he did not demand that it is repeated, because he said adhan is meant to tell the people that it's time to pray. She did it, she should have not done it, she did it, okay, people now know that it's time to pray. You don't need to repeat it. Okay, all right. And I know that these discussions, I know that the pressure, societal pressure and stuff, once you start to make any distinction between men and women, people jump on your throat, and, because women should be doing everything men do, and men, and better, but men should not be doing everything. But at any rate, I'm not going to get into that ordeal. They made some distinctions. Our scholars, the Deen, made distinctions between men and women. So it was not, and it is pretty natural to make that distinction, and it is pretty natural to say that women should not be doing this, because if the Prophet ﷺ prescribed tasfiq for women in the prayer, if the Imam makes a mistake and he said إنما التسبيح للنساء إنما التصفيق للنساء ما بال أحدكم إذا حزبه أمر في الصلاة صفق إذا ما بال أحدكم إذا نابه شيء في الصلاة صفق إنما التصفيق للنساء فإذا حزب أحدكم أمر في صلاته فليسبح فإنه إذا سبح التفت إليه. So why are you making tasfiq? Why are you clapping your hands in the salah when you're concerned about something in the salah? Tasfiq is for women, clapping is for women. When one of you is concerned about something in the salah, let him say subhanallah, because if he does, then he will be given attention. So if the Prophet made that distinction between men and women in the salah, and he did not basically prescribed for women to correct the Imam by their voice, and he prescribed for them tasfiq, and this is reported by Muslim, then it is natural that the adhan will not be prescribed for women. But then, what if the women are alone among themselves? Can they make adhan? The Hanbalis still say it is makruh for them to make adhan if they are alone, and the majority of the scholars, there is a disagreement between the scholars, but let me be flexible here, and let me tell you that al-Bayhaqi reported from Aisha radiallahu anha that she used to make adhan and iqamah and lead the women in prayer and stand in the middle of the line. So despite the fact that the Hanbalis are saying it is makruh, Aisha used to do it, and Aisha is a greater authority in these things, right? So that is why it has been reported from Shafi'i and Ahmad themselves. I'm not talking about the madhab here. I'm talking about Ahmad as a person. Ahmad radiallahu anhu as a scholar, and Shafi'i radiallahu anhu as a scholar. It has been reported from them that they allowed women to make adhan and iqamah if they are doing it for themselves, if they are doing it among themselves. So once again, it is not spiritual deficiency. It is not about spiritual deficiency. We said before, women can be muftis. And if you can be mufti, you're above anyone else. You're above the qadi, you're above the imam, you're above the muazzin, you're above. So the highest seat in terms of, if we have clergy in Islam, and we don't, but if there is clergy in Islam, the highest seat would be the mufti's seat. In Islamic clergy, women can be muftis. Judges rely on muftis. Judges consult the muftis when they are stuck or they confront a matter that they have no knowledge of. So women do climb up to the highest seat within Islamic clergy, if we will use this terminology. But the fact that they don't make adhan and iqamah is not because of spiritual deficiency. They would have been barred from being muftis. They would have been barred from being ruwat al-hadith. And they are ruwat, they are narrators of a hadith. In fact, al-Zahabi said, we have never heard of a woman that lied in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tons of men lied. We've never heard of a woman that was a liar. So they can be rawat, they can be muftis. It's not spiritual deficiency, it's a matter of propriety, appropriateness. Women should not raise their voice to make the adhan. That's why the Hanafis in Bada' as-Salah ala al-Kasari says, if she raises her voice, she's wrong by raising her voice, and if she does not raising her voice, she'd be wrong also, because you need to raise your voice in adhan, then she should not be making the adhan. So it's just like a matter of appropriateness, not deficiency. Then he says, وَالْأَذَانْ 15 كَلِمَةً لَا تَرْجِيعَ فِيهِ وَالْإِقَامَةِ 11 كَلِمَةً. The adhan contains 15 phrases without repetition. it says words in your book. It's like kalima is word, but it's too literal. He means phrases. So the adhan contains 15 phrases without repetition. The editor added without counting the repetition, or I didn't really. This was like, counting is from the editor. And sometimes when they make, they just do their own insertions sometimes. So it is without repetition, not without counting the repetition. And the Iqamah would be 11 phrases. So what are the 15 phrases of the Adhan? This is the Hanbali Adhan, which is the Adhan of Bilal. The Hanafi Adhan is the Adhan of Abu Mahzura. This is a disagreement of diversity. You don't need to worry about this. You could do this sometimes and you do the other one sometimes. All is fine. The Prophet taught Bilal this Adhan. This is the Adhan that Abdullah ibn Zayd heard. It is Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala al-falah, Hayya ala al-falah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. Count them, they are 15. Hanbali Adhan. Hanafi Adhan would be Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala al-falah, Hayya ala al-falah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. They repeated the Shahadatain. Not every Shahada was repeated in this case 4 times, not 2 times. You count the phrases, they are 19 phrases. The Iqamah, the Hanbali Iqamah, which is also the Shafi'i Iqamah, it is Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala al-falah, Qad qamat as-salah, Qad qamat as-salah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. The Hanafi Iqamah will be exactly the Hanbali Adhan. The Hanbali Adhan will be exactly the Hanafi Iqamah. Okay, so the Imam, so Imam Abu Hanifa, why did Imam Abu Hanifa choose the Hanafi one, and the Abu Mahzura's Adhan? He felt that the Prophet ﷺ taught Abu Mahzura this after Fath Makkah. So this was the latest thing that the Prophet ﷺ taught someone. The Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he was asked, so why are we, since Abu Mahzura was taught this after Bilal, why are we not choosing the Adhan of Abu Mahzura? So he said to the people who asked them, when the Prophet ﷺ went back to Al-Madinah, did he tell Bilal to change his Adhan? They said no. So he said that, that's it, that the Prophet ﷺ continued basically to endorse the Adhan of Bilal, and Bilal continued to make his Adhan until the Prophet ﷺ died.
Exactly, Hanafi Iqamah, exactly like Hanbali Imam, there is no Iqamah Salah?
Oh, I'm sorry, there is Iqamah Salah. I'm sorry. Okay, you add to this Qad qamat Salah. Anyway, you could make this sometimes, you make that sometimes, it's absolutely fine. If you're afraid of confusing the people, don't confuse the people. But if the people are tolerant, educated people, you make this sometimes and this sometimes. This is the Adhan of Bilal, this is the Adhan of Abu Mahzura. The Prophet taught them both, so be, easy about it. Now, having said that, you cannot really add to the Adhan and say this is flexible. All of this is flexible because this was taught by the Prophet ﷺ. You don't add to the Adhan before it, during it, after it, because whoever innovates in this affair of ours, it shall be rejected. So you do not add things, because if you add things and I add different things, your deen will be different from my deen, your practice will be different from my practice. When we come together, if we meet each other here in America, after 1400 years of we being completely disconnected, because there were no telegraphs and telephones and so on and so forth, and no internet, completely disconnected, some people in Morocco and some people in wherever they are, Indonesia. Then had we met here in America and had Islam been flexible with innovation, we would have been completely having different practices. Everybody would have. So even the differences that we have among ourselves, we can still trace them back to some origin. You know, the differences in the adhan, we can say this is Bilal's adhan, this is Abu Mahdura's adhan, and we can basically understand those differences and accommodate them without harm at all. So is this clear? Adhan is 15 phrases, Iqamah is 11 phrases, but in the Hanafi madhab, Adhan will be 19 phrases and Iqamah will be 15 phrases. Yes. Or 17, I'm sorry. Yes. Clarification?
Is there a different method for how long can you repeat twice? So Allah, is there, because I've heard that many times for the Iqamah instead of once, like you mentioned, twice.
This is the Iqamah.
Yeah, this is the Hanafi Iqamah, twice. Yeah.
But I don't hear the Hanafi saying the Adhan like you repeat it. I've never heard that.
So was the project in the test?
You will not hear it, but he's because he's doing it to himself. The four in the beginning, he's doing it to himself.
I hope the Malikis do that too, right?
The Malikis do that as well. They do tarjiyah. They're doing it to themselves. But it's not like they're doing it in secret. They are making those utterances, but not for you, for themselves. Then he says, وَيَنْبَغِي أَنْ يَكُونَ الْمُؤَذِّنُ أَمِينًا صَيِّتًا عَالِمًا بِالْأَوْقَاتِ. The mu'adhin should be honest with a good and loud voice. Ameen, honest, trustworthy, meaning, honest and trustworthy. Sayyitan, sayyit means what? Not only that he has a loud voice, but also good voice. Ameen is for sure, because the Prophet ﷺ said, الإمام ضامن والمؤذن مؤتمن اللهم أرشد الأئمة واغفر للمؤذنين اللهم أرشد الأئمة واغفر للمؤذنين. الإمام ضامن. An imam is the guarantor, responsible for the prayer. He guarantees the soundness of the prayer for the people that are praying behind them. ضامن, I guarantee it for you. Follow me, I guarantee it for you. ضامن, guarantor. والمؤذن مؤتمن, and المؤذن is trusted. Because we trust him, with our salah, we trust him with our suhoor and our iftar and Ramadan and so on. So he really must be trustworthy. Allahumma arshid al-a'imma for the mu'azzineen. Oh Allah, guide the imams and forgive the mu'azzins. Guide the imams and forgive the mu'azzins. And because of this hadith, the Hanbalis say that the mu'azzin has a higher status than the imam and is more virtuous than the imam. Because the Prophet ﷺ made the Imam al-Dhamin, a guarantor, but he made the Mu'azzin Mu'taman, trusted. And the Mu'taman is greater than the Dhamin. Because the Mu'taman is someone who has been already credited with trust, versus the Dhamin who is coming to say to you, I guarantee, or... Anyway, the part of the reason why Mu'azzin is better than the Imam is that the Imam is a desired job versus the mu'azzin. It's desired still, but it is not a job of status and prestige like the imam. The imam is recognized more than the mu'azzin, and it is the job that is desired by nufus. Nafs, people want to be imams. People want to be leaders. Versus the mu'azzin, because they know that everyone can make adhan, even children can make adhan. So people have less desire. People would want this for the reward in particular. So it is a better job to have muazzin versus imam, because you have an easier time harnessing the virtue and the benefit and the reward of this job than the Imam. Because most of the time the Imam will lose it to hudud al-nafs, to his ego, will lose the reward to his nafs, because the nafs will desire that position. وينبغي أن يكون المؤذن أمينا صيتا عالما بالأوقات. He must be honest with a good and loud voice and should be knowledgeable about the times. ويستحب أن يؤذن قائما متطهرا على موضع عال, and it is recommended that he makes the adhan standing in a state of wudu and on a high place facing the qibla. على موضع عال مستقبلا القبلة, on a high place facing the qibla. قائم, all of this is by consensus. All of this is recommended, not obligatory. What if he makes adhan sitting down? That it's valid. What if he makes adhan without wudu? Valid. What if he makes adhan inside the masjid? Valid. What if he makes adhan without facing the qibla? Valid. But it is recommended and mustahab. And certainly someone should not just be doing this to defy the sunnah and, that would not make sense. And if someone is just doing it to defy the sunnah, then this person is basically in trouble, in deep trouble. So standing, facing the qibla, having wudu on a high place, because Bilal used to go to a particular house that belonged to a woman from Bani Najjar and rise on top of this house because it was the highest in the neighborhood. It was not on top of the masjid, there was no zana in the masjid, there was no minaret. So Bilal used to go to that woman's house and sit on top of the house waiting for Fajr, and then makes the adhan from there because it was the highest in the neighborhood around the masjid. فإذا بلغ الحيعلة التفت يمينا وشمالا ولا يزيل قدميه. When he reaches the حيعلة is حي على الصلاة, حي على الفلاح. Each one of these phrases is called حيعلة, حيعلة. So a name for the phrase, حيعلة. When he reaches the حيعلة, he should lean to the right and the left without moving his feet. Because Abu Juhayfa, al-Bukhari and Muslim reported from Abu Juhayfa that Bilal would lean to the right and the left, say like this to the right and to the left without moving his feet. So his feet are in the same place, but he's saying Hayya ala salah to the right and he's saying Hayya ala al-falah to the left without moving his feet. His feet are stable. ويجعل إصبعيه في أذنيه. He should put his index fingers in his ears. ويجعل إصبعيه في أذنيه. Why is this? Because that is more conducive to raising your voice and basically gauging your voice. Like, you will hear yourself better if you do this. You hear yourself better if you do this. And that's why not only the mu'azzineen do this, but the qurra, the reciters of the Quran, you find them doing this as well. You'll hear yourself better doing this. And this has been, there's controversial hadith about this, but Ibn Hajar authenticated or considered it reliable or hasan.
Should we still do it now that we got mics, or?
You do it that you got mics because you gauge your voice better if you do it. And because it is the sunnah, so you get the reward for just following the sunnah. Particularly when it comes to acts of worship, yes, some things are comprehensible, but we just keep them in the very state that we inherited them from the Prophet ﷺ and the companions. Maybe in transactions, the rulings are more attached, more linked to their causes, to their wisdoms, to their effective cause or illah. But in the area of worship, yes, there sometimes are comprehensible causes for the rulings, yet we just want to preserve the worship the way we inherited it from the Prophet ﷺ. So, وَيَجْعَلْ إِصْبَعَيْهِ فِي أُذُنَيْهِ, he should put his index fingers in his ears. وَيَتَرَسَّلْ فِي الْأَذَانِ وَيَحْضَرِ الْإِقَامَةِ, reciting the adhan slowly, تَرَسَّلْ, and the Iqamah quickly, because the Prophet ﷺ said to Bilal, فَتَرَسَّلْ فِي الْأَذَانِ وَحْدِرِ الْإِقَامَةِ. Then recite the adhan slowly and the Iqamah quickly. ويقول في أذان الصبح بعد الحي على الصلاة خير من النوم مرتين. He should say in the adhan of the morning or the dawn prayer after the حي على الصلاة خير من النوم, prayer is better than sleep, and he should say this twice. And you know that this was what the Prophet instructed Bilal to do, and Abu Dawood also reported that the Prophet instructed Abu Mahzura to do the same thing, to say الصلاة خير من النوم after حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح in Adhan al-Fajr. Which one? We're not going to get there, you know, because that is a long controversy. We can discuss it at some other time. But in one of the two adhans of al-Fajr. And which one Bilal used to do? The first. And it is likely that it was the first because it is the adhan that Bilal used to do. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ بِلَالًا يُؤَذِّنْ بِلَيْلٍ فَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يُؤَذِّنَ ابْنُ أُمِّ مَكْتُومٍ. Bilal makes his adhan at night before dawn, so eat and drink until Ibn Maktoum makes his adhan. So Fajr is the only one that has two adhans. That is because people are asleep. So Bilal used to make the adhan, the first adhan, to alert people from sleep. And then Ibn Maktoum used to make the adhan to tell the people, time is in. You know, now come to the masjid. So wake up, you know, change, have wudu, have ghusl if you need to. That's what Bilal used to call the people to. And then Ibn Maktoum would say to them, it's time, you know, come now to the masjid. And then they would go to the masjid. Yes, clarification in the back? Jum'ah is different. You know, the second, which is first, adhan of Jum'ah, the other adhan of Jum'ah, which is before the adhan, was instated by Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, not by the Prophet. And it was instated in the market. So they used to make the adhan in the market to alert the people that the time is approaching, so that they could make it to the masjid by the time the adhan is made. Now, here is the issue. Some people say, well, we don't need this adhan anymore because we're not making it in the market. The way, the Prophet's way is the best way. And since the purpose for which Uthman has instated this adhan is non-existent anymore, then we should do away with it and go back to the way the Prophet, the way the Jum'ah, adhan of the Jum'ah used to be during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Some other people may say, well, this is the way that that was Uthman, one of the Khulafa ar-Rashidin, فَعَلَيْكُمْ سُنَّتِي وَسُنَّةِ الْخُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ مِنْ بَعْدِي, and we still need to alert the people that the time is approaching in our Muslim countries. The first adhan does serve a purpose. When you make the adhan from the minaret, people get alerted that the time is approaching, and this is the agreement of the four mazahib, that you make this adhan, the adhan of Uthman, that it is perpetual sunnah. So I do see like the point in both the positions. It is not a big deal. Whatever people in your masjid agree on, just follow them. Really, it's not a big deal. This one.
About the two adhan. So the adhan alarm, like during Ramadan, it's still pitch black. So is that like the first adhan?
Yeah. In Ramadan, that's why the Prophet ﷺ said Bilal makes his adhan at night. Time is not in then yet. Time for Fajr is not in yet. Eat and drink until Ibn Maktoum makes his adhan. So the first adhan, well, that's why the scholars said, if you will confuse people, don't make the first adhan in Ramadan. If it will result in confusion, don't make the first adhan in Ramadan. Just make the second adhan in Ramadan. If you fear that it will confuse people and it will prevent people from eating and drinking before the time is in. But if it will not confuse people, then that's the sunnah. Just make the two adhans. People, and it may serve a good purpose. The first adhan, Bilal's adhan, which is the first adhan, may serve a good purpose. It's just to tell the people, if you really need to like grab something and grab it and eat it, finish your food, get done, get ready. So then he said, وَلَا يُؤَذِّنُ قَبْلَ الْأَوْقَاتِ إِلَّا لَهَا لقول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن بلالا يؤذن بليل فكلوا واشربوا حتى يؤذن ابن أم مكتوم. And he may not make the adhan before the prescribed time except for the morning prayer. For the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم said, verily Bilal makes adhan at night, so continue to eat and drink until Ibn Maktoum makes his adhan. So is that clear? 2 adhans for Fajr, not 1. And this was reported by Bukhari and Muslim. Yes? No, all the time. First adhan is all the time. It is basically to alert the people that, because they are asleep. You need a little bit more effort to get them to the prayer. You need 2 adhans. 1 adhan to wake them up, and 1 adhan to tell them, come now to the masjid. All the time, not just in Ramadan. And then he said, وَيُسْتَحَبُّ لِمَنْ سَمِعَ الْمُؤَذِّنَ أَنْ يَقُولَ كَمَا يَقُولُ لقول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا سمعتم النداء فقولوا مثل ما يقول. It's recommended for those who hear the mu'adhin to repeat what he says. For the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, if you hear the call to prayer, النداء, the call to prayer, say what he says. So he says what he says, and hadith of, the hadith of Muslim from Umar radiallahu anhu excluded al-hayy ala, hayy ala as-salah, hayy ala al-falah. He will not say what he said, he will say what? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So when the mu'adhin says hayy ala as-salah, hayy ala al-falah, what are you saying? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Otherwise, you're repeating the same thing the mu'adhin is doing. You're repeating the same thing the mu'adhin is doing. What about as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm? Prayer is better than sleep. And what about قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة? Okay, قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة has been reported through a weak hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said أقامها الله وأدامها. أقامها الله وأدامها. And this is the position in the Hanbali madhab, that you say أقامها الله وأدامها. The scholars of hadith say that this is a weak hadith, therefore it is not a proper basis for legislation. To the scholars of hadith, it is not a proper basis for legislation. In Hanbali madhab it is, and therefore you repeat what he said, قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة, because that is the general recommendation of the Prophet, that you repeat what the mu'adhin says. And the Iqamah is called the second adhan. So whatever applies to the adhan applies to the Iqamah. Then, but if you say أقامها الله وأدامها, then that is the position in the madhab, and that is what Imam Ahmad would prescribe, because there is a hadith, although it is weak, but it has been alayhi al-amal. They acted upon it. Now, sadaqta wa barirta, when he says as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm, in the madhab you say sadaqta wa barirta. Sadaqta wa barirta. So you said the truth. Sadaqta wa barirta, you said the truth, and you commanded righteousness, or you did righteousness, min al-birr. So that has no foundation in the hadith. There is no foundation in the hadith for it. It's something that was recommended by the scholars. I would not consider this, in all honesty, although it is the madhab to say sadaqta and birr, I can't really say that this is an established sunnah. It is not an established sunnah. You have to have a proof to say that this comes from Allah or His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If someone says it out of taqleed to the madhab, don't condemn them. They're making taqleed of the madhab. If you want the, sort of the, whatever I believe in, whatever that means, because what I believe does not mean anything. But whatever I believe about this position is that this is not an established sunnah, and you just repeat as-salah khayru min an-nawm after him, because that is the general command of the Prophet ﷺ. So there is a difference between sadaqta and barirta and aqamaha Allah wa adamaha. can't trace them authentically to the Prophet, but أقامها الله وأدامها, there is a weak hadith here. And in the madhab, we act upon the weak hadith in these matters. Versus Sadaqtu wa Barirta. After you finish the adhan, after the muazzin finishes the adhan, then you make dua for the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. تصلي على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. فقولوا كما يقول. ثم سألوا الله لي الوسيلة فإنها منزلة في الجنة لا تنبغي إلا لعبد من عباد الله وأرجو أن يكون هو. Then ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for me. ثم صلوا علي فمن صلى علي صلاة صلى الله عليه بها 10 ثم سألوا الله لي الوسيلة فإنها منزلة في الجنة لا تنبغي لأحد من عباد الله إلا لعبد من عباد الله وأرجو أن يكون هو. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, say whatever he says, then make salah on me, like send your greetings or your blessings onto me. Make salah. Say, اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على آل إبراهيم اللهم بارك إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Send your salahs on me, or say اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد. Send your salahs on me, because for every salah that you send on me, Allah will send 10 onto you, which means Allah will bless you 10 times. Then ask Allah for a wasila for me. It's a manzila, it's a station, it's a degree in Jannah that is only that is designated for one of the servants of Allah, and I wish to be that servant. How do you ask Allah for a wasila? You say, Allahumma rabba hadhihi ad-da'wa at-tamma was-salati al-qa'ima ati Muhammadan al-wasilata wal-fadila wab'athhu maqaman mahmudan alladhi wa'adta. If you want to say إنك لا تخلف الميعاد, there is controversy on the authenticity of this particular part. But up until الذي وعدته, it's reported by Bukhari. So, اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعث اللهم مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته, reported by Bukhari from Jabir. So this is particularly the authentic. Now, finally, after this, Anas ibn Malik told us that the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يرد الدعاء بين الأذان والإقامة. Dua will never be rejected between adhan and iqamah. So what do you need to do? You make dua for yourself. So so the functions of the adhan, you listen and reflect and repeat after the muazzin. Once he finishes, you say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad, or Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad, then you stop. But you say preferably Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. Or any sigha form of salah that you have learned, because there are many authentic sighas or forms of this salah al-Ibrahimiyya or Durud Sharif. Yes. And then after this, you will ask for the wasila, and then you will make dua for yourself. And then I will stop because I'm 10 minutes over, or actually more, let people leave, and then I'll wait for your questions and answers.